You want to know the difference between a contraction that is painful but the real deal and a contraction that is not painful but the real deal and not a Braxton Hicks. Here's how you know the difference. I don't know if this is it or not, but these feel pretty strong and I almost couldn't fall asleep with them. I probably could have dozed off if I wanted to. Believing for the same thing, confessing the same thing over my body, that my body would prep for labor before ever being in labor and that I would be dilated and effaced to a great extent before I enter labor. Guys, that's what happened. Hello lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Today I am 39 weeks and 1 day pregnant. This is my 39-week pregnancy update. And I honestly didn't think I would make it to 39 weeks, but here we are. And here's an update of what's been happening this week. If you're new to my channel, I just want to say hi and welcome. My name is Brittany Garcia and I post content on motherhood, interior design, and homemaking. So if any of those topics interest you, you're in the right place. I'm a girl mama to 2 little girls and I'm expecting my 3rd surprise gender baby here in just a week or so. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, we'll see. I'm also very passionate about home birth, unmedicated home birth that is pain-free. If you'd like to hear more about my story with my second born, of how it was different from my first, you can watch this video right here. I will link it for you. It's an amazing story and I hope that it helps you in some way if you're planning on having a home birth or a hospital birth even. Some exciting things are happening. Obviously, I'm going to be posting my birth vlog very soon, as well as I just posted a video on home birth prep. So everything that you're gonna need for a home birth, I included the list that my midwife gave me, which is obviously specific to her, but most midwives will ask for these kinds of things to have at home and things to get in a birth kit and so on and so forth. So I just posted that video and you can watch it here, but let's get right into today's update video. All right, so last week I thought that the week would be the week. The 38 weeks would be the week. That didn't make any sense. But it ended up not being the week. I don't know what happened, but baby is still very much inside me. And I started having a little bit of early labor symptoms earlier this week, but they've all vanished. So we're still here, I'm still pregnant. Baby will come when baby's ready. Here's the thing, I don't really believe in due dates. My due date was changed by 3 whole weeks almost at the beginning of, I think it was October, when I did my anatomy scan. And they told me that baby was measuring about 3 weeks earlier. Now my dates could have been off by like 1 or 2 weeks, but 3 weeks seems a little excessive to me. And I haven't had the baby yet and I've never gone this long in a pregnancy. Every pregnancy, like even with Bethany, I actually had her at like 39 weeks exactly. And or not 39 weeks, sorry, 39 weeks and 3 days. So I have a couple more days till then. And then Adeline was 38 weeks and 3 days. So I kind of think that I'm a little bit earlier than what they told me. I think I'm closer to like 37 maybe, rather than 39. But we're going off of what what the ultrasound tech told me, just to kind of have a framework, because in Oklahoma you can't have a baby before like 37 weeks at home. And just in case it was accurate, we just wanted to be sure that I would be able to deliver at home and not have to go into the hospital. And so that's kind of what we did. But if I go past 40 weeks off of the ultrasound date, I'm gonna go back in and get checked by ultrasound to see what baby's measuring, because at that point, if I'm measuring right on for 40 weeks, we would start doing some, like, you know, some more birth prep type stuff. Obviously if baby's not ready yet, none of it will work, but if baby's ready and just needs a little coaxing, then that should put me into labor. So all that to say, I should have a baby fairly soon. The latest I would have a baby is like the beginning of January, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I don't think I'll be pregnant much longer, but I said that last week, so we'll see. For symptoms this week, the only thing pretty much that has really changed, but it's not super significant, is that I'm having a little bit of swelling in my fingers. I remember I mentioned last week I had not had any swelling this whole pregnancy, just about. I don't notice anything in my ankles. I do notice a little bit on my fingers because this ring is a little bit tighter than it was when I got it a couple weeks ago. And my wedding rings, still fairly easy to get on and off, but that's really the only major thing that has, you know, stood out to me this week. I am also a little bit more tired. It's kind of hitting me that baby's gonna be here very soon. I got everything ready, as you saw in my home birth prep video, got everything ready for baby. I've just been tidying up the house, decluttering, organizing. As you know, every day that I'm pregnant still, I'm like, well, let's do a little more organizing. Let's do a little more decluttering. And my house is slowly getting very, very clean and very organized, which I'm not mad about. I'm just using all the extra days that I'm pregnant to get things ready. So technically I'm not even full term yet. Full term happens at 40 weeks, but you know, with the whole due date situation, I don't even know. I don't even know at this point. So that's where we're at with that. I do have more of a desire though to be home physically, like not leave the house. I do like every now and then get the urge to like go thrifting or something, or go pick up this or that and then quickly come home. I don't really have much of a desire to be out and about, even hanging out with friends and such. So having people here, great. You know, it's easy, just have people come at whatever time and then they get to go home and I'm here and I don't have to drive. I think it's just the fact that it's a little harder for me to move around now at this point. I have been very, very active this whole pregnancy, and that has helped me significantly in terms of, you know, being very flexible and not feeling like tired and such. Like I'm able to still do things that I was not able to do when I was pregnant with Bethany. But it is getting harder to like get in and out of the car, pick things up off the floor, or hold Adeline in the store because she doesn't like to sit in the car and she runs away from me. So I end up holding her a lot of the time, and that's just getting a little challenging to do. So desire to be home more, definitely a thing. Oh, like I said, with nesting, pretty much wrapping that up as far as, you know, like the main things I needed to get done are done. But I do need to like continue to organize, declutter, because I still have time. So those are pretty much all of my symptoms. Super minimal. Everything else has pretty much stayed the same. Still craving, you know, like I've said in the last 3 videos, which has been pretty much the same my whole pregnancy. Craving sour and salty things. So for my midwife appointment, I had a midwife appointment. I told you guys it was going to be last Thursday. I had it on Thursday. And this is basically the update. Baby's heart rate was at 140 the week before, or the 2 weeks before. Because of Thanksgiving, we didn't have an appointment the week of Thanksgiving. So 2 weeks before that, baby was at 120, which was the lowest it's ever been in my entire pregnancy. This time it was back up at 140. Pretty normal. And then I did have, however, this was different this time around. I had my cervical check done, the very first one I've ever done this pregnancy. I had a group B swab test done, which I'll be getting those results pretty soon. Because you know, I'm nearing the end of my pregnancy. I tested positive for that with Adeline. Actually didn't get to treat it because she was born the day after we got the results. So everything was fine with her. Thank the Lord. We did look for signs and everything was totally normal. But the thing is, you can test positive with group B strep and then have your baby and not be positive. And so my midwife does not administer antibiotics for group B strep. She administers a concoction of home remedies that actually work. So I'm talking like oils, taking certain supplements, upping your probiotic, and basically getting that to be negative by the time you have the baby. So that's a little tidbit. Changes very quickly, very frequently. Can change from 1 week to the next, a few days to the next, you know. So I try to test as soon or as close to me having the baby as possible, just to kind of get a more accurate result on that. So for my cervical exam though, I had a feeling that I was further dilated than I had been with Bethany, which Bethany was my first. And with Bethany, I think it was like sitting at like a 3 for weeks on end, which is very unheard of. 3 or 4. For a first time baby, that's very unheard of. And that's kind of how it was with her. And then I was in labor for 6 hours and had her in active labor. Very excruciating, painful birth, painful labor, but I had her very quickly. With Adeline, I was sitting at a 7 for a whole week, dilated to a 7 for a whole week before I had her. Seems crazy, I know, but that's basically what happened with her. 7 is basically the point of transition in active labor. You normally never get to a 7 unless you have been in, or sorry, you're in active labor from like, I think 3 or 4 centimeters to 7, and then in 7 you're in transition period, and then 7 to 10 is basically the point when baby starts crowning and you push baby. This with Addie I was at a 7 for a whole week and I wasn't in labor, but that's what I believed for. That's what I confessed over my body, and that's what happened. Been believing for the same thing, confessing the same thing over my body, that my body would prep for labor before ever being in labor, and that I would be dilated and effaced to a great extent before I enter labor. Guys, that's what happened. So I dilated to a 6. I was dilated to a 6, almost a 7, and I had checked myself a few days prior and I thought I was like a 4 or 5 if I measured correctly. If I measured incorrectly, because it's kind of hard to tell when you're doing it yourself. If I measured incorrectly, then I was already a 7 like 2 or 3 days before. And if not, I dilated that much, like a few more centimeters in the span of a few days. So I'm like at a 7 almost. Probably already am at a 7 because it's been several days since then. Today is actually, it's been a week. No, it's been 6 days. Sorry, I was like, wait, did I miss my appointment? It's been 6 days since I was checked. Pretty sure I'm more progressed than I was then. And guys, it just works. It works to confess over your body what you want it to do. It has to listen to you. You're in control of it. And so let me encourage you, if you're a first-time mom, if you are having another baby and you've had babies before, confess what you want your body to do and listen to it. Make a voice recording of exactly what you want your body to do before you have a baby and before you go into labor and when you have the baby and when you're giving birth. Just confess it over yourself and you'll see results, but you have to really have it in your mind that there is no plan B. And you basically dispel any of those negative thoughts that you have concerning birth. Get rid of your fears, throw those fears out the window and replace it with your positive mental image of what you want your birth to be like, and it'll happen. So that's my little spiel on that. I have a lot more to say on that topic, but I'll save that for another video where I can be more specific. As far as effacement goes with my cervix, it wasn't fully effaced all the way around. It was like kind of like effaced halfway, like 50% on one side, and then not really effaced on the other side, but it was all very soft and pliable. So that is really good. That's a good sign. It means my body is doing what it needs to do. The other only main thing about this week has been, I think I have been in and out of early labor a couple of times in this week. What do I mean by that? So I've had a lot more discomfort laying down in general, and that usually happens to me when I'm in early labor or about to be in early labor. Just a lot of, I feel a lot of like pressure in my hips. And when I lay on my hips, which is what you have to do when you're pregnant, you can't lay on your back or your belly, so you're on your hips, it just becomes very, very painful. Or not painful, it becomes very uncomfortable the last week you're pregnant. And so that's kind of been happening with me, but a couple nights ago, actually last Friday is the first time it happened. I started having contractions every hour and then every like 15 minutes, and then they stopped. And I didn't get any more the rest of the evening, but they were the real deal. They were the real contractions. They were not braxton hicks, but they were not painful. So I also have another whole thing about contractions being real but not painful versus contractions that are real and very painful. With my birth with Addie, my contractions were real, but they were not painful, most of them. There was a couple that were painful here and there, but once I got my mind focused, they weren't painful. So if you want to know the difference between a contraction that is painful but the real deal, and a contraction that is not painful but the real deal and not a Braxton Hicks, here's how you know the difference, at least in my experience. Contractions are basically, you know, your muscle squeezing the baby out or down to get them ready to you know, go through the birth canal. With a real contraction and not a Braxton Hicks, they wrap from the back almost like towards, it feels like it's like inside, or it'll almost feel like it's on along your back, but it'll be very inside your abdomen, and you feel it at the kind of like the top on the back of the uterus, and they wrap around like this and they start squeezing. So you start feeling the squeezing sensation like this, they wrap around the front, and then you feel it all over and they push down. Braxton Hicks don't do that. Braxton Hicks just kind of are mostly in the front, and you feel them tighten like this, but you don't feel that wave almost contract, or you don't feel that wave squeezing. You feel it just kind of in the front, kind of like you were to squeeze a little ball or squeeze a balloon. That's kind of how Braxton Hicks is.
Gummies.
More gummies. Did you finish your oranges? Addie wanted some more snacks, so I stopped, got her that, and let me remember where I was at. I think I was talking about Braxton Hicks. So Braxton Hicks just kind of squeeze in the front, contractions go all the way around and they squeeze all over, but they push down. The other main difference is that contractions almost like in a way deform your belly. Now, I don't know how to describe this unless you've seen it before, but it almost looks like, okay, so after baby drops, right, your belly gets very sloped at the top, and you can almost fit like a hand right here, right? So when you have a contraction, this whole area where it's kind of like sloped becomes almost like a shelf again, because the muscle pushes the baby down. And so if you imagine like this is your uterus, right, and it's kind of sloped, you're gonna have a contraction, and so your muscle kind of moves out and pushes down, and when it pushes down, this whole thing gets flat. So it kind of almost becomes like a shelf again, and your belly gets rock hard. Obviously that happens with Braxton Hicks as well, but the whole like deformation of the belly does not happen with the Braxton Hicks. They're obviously a lot stronger, but they don't have to hurt. And so that is something that has helped me distinguish between Braxton Hicks and real contractions when you're expecting your contractions not to hurt. So that's just a little useful tidbit side note that I wish I had known when I was believing for a pain-free labor, but didn't know how to tell the difference between contractions and Braxton Hicks. So anyways, getting back to my story of early labor, that's what happened Friday night. And then on, I think it was 2 nights ago, I started having very strong contractions throughout the night. Actually was like, I stayed awake because what happened with Addie is I slept through all of my early labor, even though I was already at a 7 when I finally went into labor. From like with her from midnight until 6, woke up at 6 with an extreme stomach cramp, went to the bathroom, thought that I just had diarrhea cramps, and I was in labor, and I had her 2 hours later. So I was like, I don't know if this is it or not, but these feel pretty strong, and I almost couldn't fall asleep with them. I probably could have dozed off if I wanted to, but I was like, I should stay awake and kind of monitor them and see if they kind of, you know, keep coming so that I can let my midwife know. And they stopped. And so I didn't tell her, and then she scolded me. So because she was like, I didn't make it to your birth last time, you need to let me know. So not gonna do that again, but I was able to go back to sleep after like a couple of hours. Along with the contractions I was having a low back ache that started from when I went to sleep, and I was having Roberto like rub my back because it was a lot of discomfort, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't painful. It was just like a backache, and I didn't connect the dots until later. And then I was having cramping, like menstrual type cramping, and it wouldn't go away. It was just kind of constant. But then on top of all of that, I was having the contractions, which were not painful. They were strong, and they were keeping me awake. And so that went on and off. Went to sleep, woke up at like 2:30. Bethany was in our bed, and I didn't get back to sleep until like 4:30. Or like 3:45, something like that. So that's what was happening just a couple nights ago. And now that is a sure, for me, that's a sure telltale sign that baby is coming very soon. If I was still 3 weeks, you know, earlier than my due date, like 37 weeks right now, or sorry, 36 weeks right now, I would definitely not be having that because I didn't have that with my girls. So anyways, they all went away. I'm still pregnant, still here. And I guess the last thing for my update is just to show you my baby bump, but I wanted to remind you guys that I will, once again, be posting my birth vlog very soon once baby is born and I have a moment to edit that. And then, yeah, so we're just like kind of playing the waiting game right now. And hopefully next week we'll have a baby on my would-be, next week I would be 40. So if I don't make it to 40 weeks, this is my last update. And if I do, you'll see me next week. Okay, so here is my baby bump. Let me show you real quick. This has been such like it's been hard to show you guys. I've been showing you in the mirror, but let's try it this way this time. So, I'm gonna have to move you down a little bit. So here is my baby bump. From both sides, the baby is really low now. Baby dropped a few weeks ago, but I still feel like I'm lower and lower and lower every week, but we're very excited to meet our little bundle of joy. Cannot wait. Maybe next week I'll have a little newborn right here and you guys can see his or her little face. I'm so excited to meet the baby. We do have a name picked out for both a boy and a girl, so super excited about that. But thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate every single one of you. If you would consider subscribing, I would love to have you on this journey of motherhood and home birth and just all of the fun things that come with being a mom. And I'd love to see you around here again. So leave me a comment down below. I would love to know what your guesses are on what baby is and when I will have baby. And without further ado, I will see you in my next video very, very soon. Bye, guys.
Sunrise in West Virginia, sleep talking on the front porch.